Welcome back. Another Tuesday, another live. Right, Bonnet?
Another Tuesday, another live, man. Well, a lot more stuff happening too.
A lot more stuff. It's like they knew. I think we've been getting some good luck over the last few weeks. Like they know.
It feels
TPS is
like
going
it.
live on Tuesday.
Every time we come on here, something new is happening.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff happened today. I mean, probably could have done a video or a live to react to the Alamo Bowl, but we're here. We'll talk about it. We were actually at the game, physically and mentally for the most part. We can kind of recap our trip and the game. San Antonio was a fantastic time. If we ever make to the Alamo Bowl, I will be in attendance again.
Yeah, I think I agree. The trip overall was a blast. So we had 2 nights really just to kind of do whatever we wanted. And we took advantage. We had a lot of fun there. The game itself was, it is what it is. I feel like Billy Bowman said it best when he said Oklahoma beat Oklahoma. There's a lot of chances for us. We kind of screwed it up. But yeah, I mean, overall, for the most part, that was a 10 out of 10 trip.
For sure. And I guess we can start there. Let's talk about the Alamo Bowl because it's definitely one where you look at it and you can have two different reactions. I guess you can look at it glass half full, glass half empty. I'm here to look at it glass half full. I actually think Oklahoma's future looks much brighter after that game. Um, but I'll kick it over to you, Brandon. What do you think of the Alamo Bowl? What are some of the takeaways? Floor is yours.
I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna look at this optimistically as well. Obviously you lose by a final of 2 touchdowns, which doesn't look great, and all sorts of things like that. But Oklahoma was up 11 points. I think it was 24-13, and that's in spite of really 6 turnovers total. We have 3 picks. Some of those just I think Jackson just making some freshman type mistakes. You fumbled the ball a couple times, but you turned the ball over. Jalil Farouk didn't have his finest hour as a Sooner in that game. It's unfortunate. He fumbled the ball, I think, inside the 5, and that takes away at least 3 points. You get a pass interference call in the end zone that sets you up, at the 2-yard line, 1st and goal. You end up settling for 3 on that drive. So I feel like Oklahoma left a lot of points on the field, and still, up until that fumble return for a touchdown, it kind of felt like it was going to be our game. It just kind of we really beat ourselves. And credit Arizona, obviously they are a really good football team. I think the second best team we've seen all season, and Oklahoma had every chance to beat them. It is what it is. It's not something to get too upset about, but there's a lot of positives to take away from it.
I agree 100% with what you said. And the turnovers were at the end of the day what screwed Oklahoma. I think when you look at, I thought, and we talked about it in our live stream last week, previewing the Alamo Bowl, this was going to be game one by the big boys in the trenches. And Oklahoma did not do terribly. I mean, they got 4 sacks, I believe, as a team in that game, if I remember correctly. The offensive line looked good. Jackson kind of, I think, did make him look a little bit better because he does move really well, and stays pretty composed. So that's one bright spot in Jackson, honestly. And I saw a lot of stuff about passing the ball too much. At the end of the day, what bowl games have become, it's really just a preview into next year and kind of seeing what these coaches want to see what they have in their guys. You know what you have in Gavin Sawchuk. I mean, he had 10 carries for over 120 yards, 130 yards. He's going to be a guy next year, given that he
Mm-hmm.
stays healthy throughout the offseason. You want to see what you have in Jackson, and with the amount of attempts that you gave him in a real game, you know what you have in Jackson, a dude that has special arm talent that can keep his composure, but you need to kind of coach the mistakes out of him. He just needs to be in the film room, and just have more time out there on the practice field with his guys, because there were a couple interceptions that were like, I'm not really sure what you're looking at. Maybe you missed the defender was there. Maybe the defender just was able to get one over on you, but it's one where throw the ball elsewhere, and probably something that if you watch film, you can correct and just grow within that. Because at the end of the day, it was his first start of his
Mhm.
career. More than likely going to be better next year, especially when you have not that many games, or sorry, some pretty easy games to start the season when you look at it opponents wise. Um, I defensive wise, especially with the announcement that happened today of Woody Washington coming back, I think you're fine. I was saying it over and over to anyone that would listen at the stadium. I think this was the best team we played, not the second best team, the best team we played all year. Um, Texas is good, don't get me wrong, but I think you saw there that they still have some growth to do, just like Oklahoma does. And Arizona just lost a couple of games. Really, I think you can really look back in their schedule and be like, man, they probably should have the USC game because that offense is really good for Arizona, and they just made some mistakes to end the game, and USC ended up pulling one over on them because in an 11-1 Arizona team, people aren't looking at it like, wow, your Oklahoma is downgraded and playing Arizona now in an Alamo Bowl. If you're playing a level one Arizona, people kind of take them a little bit more serious, which, you know, good or bad thing. I think at the end of the day, you played either the best or second best team, whatever opinion you want to have on them. And
They dropped three
it
games, so they have to be. I mean, they have to be the second best team. Like, it
I
is what
think
it
so.
is.
Well, yeah,
They
sure,
lost
record
three
wise,
times.
but you can go back and look like you could have beat some good opponents. I mean, they had Washington on the ropes.
They played Washington tougher than Texas did. I mean, and Texas, they obviously made it look very interesting last night. We'll segue into that at some point, but yeah, Arizona is a very good team. That's a very good first start for JA. And he, obviously, like you were mentioned, he's by no means was he perfect. He threw three interceptions. A couple of them were, to be honest, just kind of bad. Like like I think you said it. Like, what are you doing? What are you thinking there? He threw three bad ones, but then he battled back from those early mistakes because at the end of the day, Oklahoma was up by one going into halftime. Then they built an 11-point lead in the third quarter, and he made some really pretty throws too. That touchdown to Nick Anderson where he kind of made something happen, rolled out of bounds. That was just a perfect play all around because Nick with the toe drag swag there in the corner of the end zone. The deep ball to Brennan Thompson was money. I mean, I think you saw a lot of what JA is going to be. I think the fumbles hurt us more, but it doesn't matter. We're fine.
Yeah, at the end of the day, this game doesn't matter. It's more so a scrimmage versus a good team, and they didn't have very many opt outs. Still, I mean, you can't make the mistakes that you did. Can't turn the ball over six times when these games actually matter. Um, but again, I'm personally a fan of giving Jackson Arnold just the green light. Let's let him throw as much as possible. That's also the attraction that OU fans wanted to watch. Yeah, you want to see a win, but I don't think very many OU fans would have been like, okay, we got to win, but we only saw Jackson throw the ball 10 times and he had to run it 10 more times for us to get there. Then people would be like, Seth Luttrell sucks as an offensive coordinator, which I don't think he is. He does because this isn't his offense. He said it at his press conference for the Alamo Bowl. This offense is the exact same offense they were running this year. You just have a different play caller. It's tough to overcome six turnovers. I mean, the two games we lost this year in the regular season couldn't overcome three.
Yeah, and we were closer in this one with six than we were. I mean, yeah, it is. It is what it is. It sucks. Yeah, I think you hit it right there. I think we were all there. I know us in the crowd, and I think a lot of people watching at home would have wanted to see Jackson Arnold throw the ball 45 times, which he did in this game. Because at the end of the day, yeah, you definitely want to win. We wanted to win, and we were bummed out that that they ended up losing, but it doesn't mean anything going into next season. We were not in the college football playoff semifinal. It doesn't sting quite as bad as those. I just look at the positives to take away, and I think there are a lot of those. I think, yeah, like Les said, that Farouk fumble, both of them killed us. The one inside the 5 that not enough people are talking about because they ended up not scoring out of it, but we didn't score either. They took away at least 3 points from us there, and then the one that was returned for a touchdown really changed the entire outlook of the game, I think.
Yeah, I mean, before that they hadn't scored since the first half, and then
Defense
that
was
one to
dialed in.
yep that one to end the third quarter basically started killed OU's momentum immediately and shot it up out of the roof for Arizona. And Arizona fans were really cool too. I had a good time.
I agree. It
That
was
the whole trip there. You never really got in any arguments. They were kind of confident in going into the game, but they were cool people.
cool people. We met a lot of cool people. OU fans, Arizona fans. Did some karaoke. We had a good time.
Yep. Let's talk about the defense a little bit. I think we focused a lot on the offense, but they did. The defensive line looked good.
Yeah,
Armour and Thomas had a sack. Kendall Dolby, I think that's a guy that people haven't really talked about much, especially when you think about the returning guys into or for 2024. The guy is not appreciated enough because he made a lot of big plays during the regular season. And if you watched all 12 games, you saw him grow every year or every game. Sorry. He's going to be a good player wherever he's at. I don't know if it's going to be nickel. I don't know if it's going to be
I think he
a
fits that
backup
nickel
role.
perfect. I think he's got to be in the nickel. I think he's a very good player playing there. He
Yeah,
had 2 sacks.
he did. He did. He had a hell of a game, and he picked out. He got a pick in the Red River game. I mean, it was tip ball, but he was in position. At the end of the day, you don't get lucky like that without effort and knowing where you're supposed to be. And he does all those things well. So Oklahoma is going to be in a. I genuinely believe that this defense is going to be a top 40 defense, making another
It's
big leap into next season.
I was gonna make that same thing because you go 2022 to 2023, you see a huge jump, and then going into next season, with the exception of Marcus Stripling, who had a sack in the Alamo Bowl, um, with Woody announcing he's coming back today, I don't think you lose anybody again outside of Stripling that was a part of a defense last year that showed that they're a lot better than they were in 2022, and then you're adding a lot of really good pieces uh, to that defensive side of the ball as well with some of these 2024 class guys. Yeah, I think I think top 40 is almost playing it low. I guess Rondell Bothrid, I forgot. Yeah, so I mean, with the exception of Stripling and Bothrid, you're pretty much bringing everybody back. And yeah, if you can add some Nick Scordon, that would be big.
Oh yeah, I agree. And yeah, it does suck to lose Bothroyd, but I don't think you look at his production and think it's something that is irreplaceable, especially with not just the guys coming in the 2024 recruiting class, but the guys that are still there that are already on the team. I mean, PJ is 5-star from last year's class. Feel like people like to talk about how Oklahoma never lands a 5-star on the defensive line, as if he doesn't exist and isn't on this current roster. Guy is promising, big, athletic, long. Hopefully, he gets a lot more opportunity going into next year. And you still have our Mason Thomas, who was just dealing with a lot of injuries this year. Trace Ford, I believe, is coming back.
I believe he's
You know,
back. Yeah,
Greg is mentioning it there. So you've got plenty of returning guys. You're not really losing anyone pivotal on this
no,
team. Even I think I would say, I mean, it would have sucked to lose Woody, but I think we would have all understood it and been fine with the depth that is behind him because Gentry, outside of his injury issues, I think is a first round draft pick as a defensive back, first or second round draft pick. Then Makari Vickers looked good. Was it the Oklahoma State game where they didn't call or they called a defensive pass interference where it should have been an offensive pass interference, and it was against Makari. Like he was in position, and
oh
the ref
yeah, that
just
was
screwed him.
yeah. And then yeah, no, that's a whole different rabbit hole. But that was
Yeah,
Vickers. Josiah Wagner looked promising in his snaps this season. Yeah, no, I mean, and then plus you bring in Dejon Malone and Malaska today. I think it's Jocelyn Malaska from
hmm
Utah. So there's just more depth there in the defensive back room. Yeah, this defense I think has a whole lot of potential next season.
and but let's talk about the addition of the cornerback Jocelyn Malaska from Bethany, Oklahoma. I think he's 6'1", 185.
Great
Remember
size.
correctly? Yeah,
Hmm.
fantastic size for that position. He is a preferred walk-on, which is I think huge for Oklahoma because he was not only was he a scholarship guy at Utah, at a place that is known to have very good defenses. But he basically said, you know what? He's probably going to get enough NIL where it's going to cover his cost of living and school and whatever he needs. But he's giving up that opportunity of a scholarship to go to a place where he thinks he's going to be best developed. I think Jay Bly's shown that he can in his 2 short years at Oklahoma. So
Oh yeah.
give him that opportunity. Big guy.
He mentioned the culture. That's something that we're building, and it's showing here. But he, like Les is saying here, he's got a brother in the 2026 class, Evanson Malaska, who's looking to be a pretty special player too. So I think adding Jocelyn here doesn't suck.
I agree. And that also puts you in a position where like a lot of people weren't very happy with Kenai Walker's play this year, which, I guess everyone can have their own opinion on that. I think he played fine, not like a starter level yet, but he did improve from the year before. So we'll see what happens
Yeah.
into 2024. But if he maybe plateaus a little bit, you have Deyon Malone, you have this Malaska kid that have that similar length. Again, Makari Vickers also I think he's 6 feet flat or 6'1", taller guy, longer guys
And then
that are there.
yeah, Jacoby Johnson's a big dude. I mean,
Yep.
he didn't play a whole lot, but he's a guy that I think is gonna get there at some point. He's big. Jaden Rose big. I see. I'm just looking at the comment here. He hadn't done anything yet for us, but I think Jacoby Johnson will.
Yeah. No, this defensive back room, because Okie Trades here is mentioning Dave McCullough hitting the portal, which we can hit on to here in a second. But the defensive back room as a whole, I think, again, people have been so absorbed with how we haven't recruited at the defensive line position as much as they'd like, as good as they would have liked them to, even though I think this 2024 class is one of the best for just defensive line group, period. You don't really hear enough people appreciating Jay Valai and Brandon Hall for what they're doing to rebuild those rooms, because pass defense was not good at Oklahoma before they got here, and they're turning it around not only in personnel but in the guys that they're recruiting. You're not getting these bookie-sized corners anymore. You're going after big, long, and still very fast guys that, for the most part, I think all played receiver at the high school level, so they have an idea of what is coming at them.
Yeah, no, I mean 100%. We're getting a lot of comments here about RSJ. I mean, look no further if you want to talk about Jay Valai and Brandon Hall and what they've been doing. Just the growth that you've seen out of Spears Jennings, from 2022, where it wasn't very good, to the end of this year, or young, I don't know. The end of this year, he looks like he's going to be an absolute player. That guy looks to be somebody. And then you've got that whole, I mean, you got both the Bowen brothers, Peyton and Eli. You already saw what Peyton's going to be. That room is fun. That room is a lot of fun. I think. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think this defense is one Nick Scorton away from being elite. Just because that's a guy that, and he's visiting on the 6th. I mean, we are the last visit, so hopefully, that all goes well. But because if you add Nick Scorton, I don't think that there's a weakness on this defense next year.
No, and you add experience to. You basically replace Bothroyd with another guy that is experienced. He was the sack leader in the Big Ten, so it's not like he's a scrub. He knows how to play defensive end. It will be interesting because I believe he did play. Technically, he's an outside linebacker / defensive end, so we'll see how he fits into the scheme. I don't know if I guess he has a preference. Maybe we can get him on at some point and kind of talk about if he did commit to Oklahoma, like how he sees himself in this defensive scheme, because I think it is a little bit different than Purdue's. But yeah, I mean, this defense will be stout, and maybe if you guys want to put your predictions in where you think Oklahoma will rank next year, I don't think that it's crazy to think they could be a top 40, top 30 defense, especially with the schedule we have ahead of us. Like, that is really, I think, in my opinion, that's really impressive.
I think top 40 is kind kind of is kind of the worst case scenario. I feel like it's going to be in that 30 range, or I mean top 30 range, 25 ish or so. It's gonna be solid.
Yep. And I guess let's talk about Dave McCullough a little bit and losing him to the transfer portal. Um, Going into, I guess, through his recruitment, if I remember correctly, he was committed to Cincinnati for quite a bit, and then as the season ended last year, that the Deyon McCullough rumors started to pop out. Obviously, he entered the transfer portal and became a Sooner. He was a package. Day and Deyon were a package deal to go to Oklahoma. You lose one of them. Don't really think that affects Deyon because one more year at Oklahoma and he'll probably be NFL bound, assuming he has
Mhm.
a good 2024 day. It does suck because I do think he was, again, a guy that I don't know how quickly he would have gotten playing time because you do have guys like Peyton Bowen out there already getting playing time. RSJ is going to be a dude. And then you're bringing other talent to that safety position. And Oklahoma has not shied away from going to the transfer portal when needed at any position. They probably just looked at what the situation was and might be looking for a place where he can actually play. And as that is a coach in Notre Dame, so you assume that that's a place that is favored
Yeah,
to land him.
exactly that. He just probably just one too many mouths to feed. Very talented, very young defensive back room at Oklahoma. Probably figured if he didn't get much playing time this year, it probably wasn't going to improve next season. And yeah, you mentioned it. His dad's at Notre Dame. Would not be shocked at all to see him becoming Fighting Irish. Although, I mean, I feel like if he runs down to Notre Dame, I don't know much about their class or their team at all, but they're usually a pretty solid program. I feel like he's going to run into a similar issue there if he does go to Notre Dame.
Yeah, guess that'll be an interesting one on where he lands. Also, wouldn't surprise me if he goes to maybe a smaller program, not going all the way down like Texas State, but a lower perceived Power Five program
Like running
probably
back to a
as a
Cincinnati
landing
or
spot.
something.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
A Big 12 team. Honestly, would
Hmm.
not surprise me because all of those teams need depth for the most part. He provides at least that, if not an improvement to the safety rooms that they would have, or safeties they would have in that room.
Yeah, that's pretty much all it is there
Yeah.
with him.
Um, let's. I guess we can talk about actual football that happened yesterday. We
I
saw.
was I was I was hoping we get into that. Yeah, those are two really really good college football playoff games.
Yeah, I think there's no disappointment. As much as we may think that they didn't put the right teams in, they definitely put four teams that gave us very entertaining games. Um,
we talked about this hard yesterday when it
yep.
happened.
Whenever we get to the Bama, here, let's just talk about it here. Please explain the fourth and goal from the 4 yard line, running the noodle armed QB up the. I think he means fucking middle of the Michigan brick wall to have no
Yeah,
chance to win the game. That was Brandon. You can start with that because that was
that
crazy.
that's probably the worst play call I've ever seen in my life. But I think the bomb. You said it here. The noodle arm quarterback. He did not play well all games, especially throwing the ball. He wasn't playing well. I think they had no confidence in him at all in that situation. Which for I don't know if you agree with that or not, but the play that they ended up running was yeah, like you said it here. It had no chance. I don't understand why they did that instead of. I mean, even if you don't have any confidence in this guy to throw it, I feel like a fade ball to the corner of the end zone is better than what they did. At least there you can get maybe a pass interference or a holding or something. But that was especially from a guy as good as Nick Saban and is such a winner as Nick Saban is to. And they had the injury before that play, so they had a decent amount of time to sit and think that one over, and that is what they end up coming back from the injury timeout to do. It was mind blowing.
Yeah, I think that I've seen many people put their thoughts on that. And obviously, like you look at it and you're like, Jalen Milroe just made a terrible read. He probably could have gone to the outside and followed his running back and made him a blocker. Not gone down the middle would have been it. Anything but go down just behind the fat boys and to their fat boys would have been a better option. Try to just use your speed and get around that wall. Um, but one thing that has been mentioned that probably wasn't talked about enough during the game is how bad that center is at getting the ball to him. I don't know. I didn't really watch the blocking, but the Jalen Milroe was having to adjust to those snaps almost every single time. If they weren't low, they were to the side. He must be on the jugs machine every day because he did not drop a ball or very. I guess I didn't see him like you didn't look at him and like, man, Jalen Milroe can't handle a snap. To me, the thought was that dude is helping out his center not look like a jackass right now.
Yeah, he put one on the ground. I think he recovered it, but yeah, for the most part, he was having to do. I mean, all game long, he was having to chase the ball from the center. It was not good. The center and Milroe, they did not have their finest showing. I would be shocked if both of them are starters at Alabama next season.
Yeah, and that Nick Saban has plenty of either portal or high school recruits coming in. Where that guy's going to have a lot of work to do if he wants to keep his job going into next year. And Jalen
Yeah.
Milroe too. He's only a sophomore, so he's got plenty of eligibility. Don't think he's going to be NFL bound after next season, and even if he had a decent year. So we'll see what they do there. I mean, Alabama wasn't very happy with their QB room going into the season, but they also took two quarterbacks last year, so maybe they'll have more belief in that Ty Simpson kid, or they use one of the guys that is coming in. That either one of the guys from the 2023 class or their 2024 quarterback, Julian Sayin, who I think, depending on the it's called the recruiting platform you look at, he is the number one quarterback. So maybe they give him a shot.
See, now that we know the outcome of that game and that Michigan, forces overtime and comes back to win the game, how crazy is it that the play that punt returner ended up making, which I making whatever to muff the punt there and to calmly pick it up at the 1 yard line, not panic, too much, and to avoid a safety there that would have cost them the game. His blunder almost cost them the game in regulation. He did a nice job to recover there, to pick it up, get hit, stay at the 1 yard line. Ended up being the difference in the game.
Yeah. We were talking about it when we were watching it. What an Alabama way that would have been to just do a walk-off safety. But yeah, that punt
Especially like
returner,
that, yeah.
huge mistake, ended up obviously didn't cost them, but that essentially became the difference of the game because
Yeah.
he wasn't too dumb to go into the end zone for the recovery.
You got Herb Street, on the live call saying, "Man, I wonder what's going through that young man's head there." And we were like, "Well, I bet you a couple words are running through his head,
Yeah,
or out loud."
probably
Just he's shit, fuck the
fuck.
whole time.
Yeah, exactly. What else goes through your head in that moment?
He knew he's in trouble there. But yeah,
But
credit
again,
him
didn't cost them.
to avoiding a safety. Yeah, I think he made a nice play there. And then obviously that Washington Texas game, that was a fun one. And I'm sure a lot of people here had the same, thoughts as we did throughout most of that game. I thought that game was pretty much, done for with the way Michael Penix was playing, with the way Washington as a whole was playing. They were kind of whooping up on Texas the whole game. And then some questionable play calling in the fourth quarter kind of gets Texas close. And then a really unfortunate event where, it shouldn't have been that close in the first place. I think when you run the ball there, I think they would have punted with like 20 seconds left, and Texas would have got it with 10 seconds having to go the length of the field, no timeouts. Unfortunately for Washington, their running back ends up getting hurt, so the ball doesn't start till the snap, which saves Texas 45 seconds. And then they rough the kicker, or they rough the punt returner and set him up at the 30-yard line, and I thought that was about to be a disaster.
Washington was trying to lose that game. The play call by the OC, just take a knee there. Like there's no reason to run it. It's not like your running back was having a historic game where he needed a few more yards to break some sort of record or even a school record. I don't think the dude had more than 50 yards yesterday. He had 2 touchdowns that were obviously huge, but take a knee, let the clock bleed, like you said, and then yeah, I think the broadcast said it was the long snapper that ran his ass all the way down to the
Mm-hmm.
other end of the field. And dude, unless you know what you're doing, don't run that fast. You're not trying to get there. You're just trying to get that guy to stay as far away from the other end zone as possible.
It felt, yeah. I mean, it just felt so much disaster because and then they have that play where Jordan Whittington just goes up and gets it. On that one, if you're the DB, if you feel like you're not in good enough position to make a play, just tackle him.
Pass interference. I
Take
thought
the
the same
15
thing.
yards.
Yep.
That's way better than setting him up on your own 30. Just tackle him. There's 20 seconds left, and then they're, instead of being at the 30, you're 30. They're approaching midfield, still not quite there yet, and then they have that sideline catch by Blue, who dropped one earlier, and that one was the one he ends up making was a lot tougher. I just was like, I can't believe what I'm watching. I thought we were just cursed. It felt like something only OU can do in some way, because I feels like, when you watch this OU team, we have seen this team be in a great position and feel like we're just going to run away with it, and we somehow all the time just let teams back in. And Washington, maybe they knew that a lot of Sooners were watching them and wanted them to win, so they were like, you know what, let's make this feel more like an OU game for these guys who are watching us.
Yeah, it was stressful. I was watching it on my phone and listening to it, and all I could just think was, man, I hope that Washington doesn't just fuck this up for everyone. You know how much joy you would have killed for so many people, not just your own Washington fans, but Oklahoma fans and A&M fans. Now I think you've got three fan bases all behind one group.
Oh yeah, we're all Huskies in the title game, just
Yeah.
because of that. But not only that, you would have ruined a master class for Michael Penix. I think anybody watching that game can, and then just watching Penix who doesn't have a dog in the fight, like we really don't. I mean, we're not Washington fans, but Michael Penix is the absolute truth. That kid he is so damn good.
Yeah. Not only now after last night does he have people in his corner saying that he should have been the Heisman winner, but I think that and it's going to be crazy because this guy has been talked about as the next coming of Jesus Christ to some extent. He gives Caleb Williams run for his money for the number one overall pick. I think the biggest difference there is you look at their ages. One is 22 and the other one's 26. With the way
At
quarterbacks,
24, I think Penix is 24.
24, with
Yeah,
the way quarterbacks live in the NFL, they don't really get hit. He can probably have, if he's good, if he's as good as he's shown to be in this last couple of seasons at Washington, probably have a 15-year career. Then I don't really think you worry about taking a 24-year-old versus a 22-year-old. If he can put the ball where he, if he can be that accurate in the NFL, you've got a guy. And
yeah.
the age at that point does not matter.
He's 23, but I think he'll be 24 when the football season starts. Is what I was going for there. But um, yeah, no, and then back to that game, but not really, not about the game itself. Is Texas is going to lose a lot of guys down from that team, especially offensively. I think their entire receiving core should be gone. I saw that Worthy has already hit the portal, or not the portal.
NFL
He's
draft.
going to the draft. Yeah, I think Adonai Mitchell will quickly follow suit there. I think that Sanders will also do the same thing. So they're going to lose some dudes there. Could potentially lose Jonathan Brooks. Their offense is going to take a big hit. They are replacing it with some really good guys, out of the portal, out of their, 2024 class for them, but they're losing some dudes.
I agree. And I, after last night's game, Adonai Mitchell might be the best receiver in that group at Texas because Worthy, after his freshman year, showed a lot of promise, but hasn't really been what was expected. And Adonai Mitchell makes some big plays. Two-time national champion, I believe.
That guy's played in every big game you can possibly play in college football. I mean, that's pretty much all he played in.
Never
His
missed a
big
college
games.
football playoff.
Yeah, yeah.
So you gotta. He's definitely got a lot of guys. I think probably boosted their draft stock after last night's bowl games. And then one more to go. College football is coming to a wrap, unfortunately, for this 2023
Hate it.
season. and we've got 8 months of just talking about recruiting. That what everyone loves to do. But I'm gonna miss football, college football specifically. Look, we still got
Same.
professional football.
It's not
Brandon
the
kind of has
same.
professional
It's
football.
not the same. I'll be up for 2 more weeks.
But now, the Big Ten is the big winner here because they get a national championship regardless of which team wins.
Yeah,
Who
they
wins
do.
though?
I'm rocking Washington, man. I picked them when the playoffs was announced as a team I wanted to see win, and I'm just a big Michael Penix fan, and he's won me over. I'm pulling for him.
Yeah, I'm with you. I hope Washington does win. I think the big thing I'm scared of here for Washington is that run defense looked just as bad as an OU run defense in the Lincoln Riley era. They couldn't stop anything um, when the
No,
ball was on the ground.
it was tough.
And Michigan has a pretty good run offense. Blake Corum, the can't remember the number two running back's name right now, but he's also pretty good. They're going to run the ball a lot. JJ McCarthy's going to be a non-factor.
Yeah, no, they're definitely gonna hit the run game hard, but it should be another fun game, kind of high scoring. I would bet, just because I don't think that Michigan's really going to be able to slow down what Penix is doing either right now. At this point in time, with the way he's playing right now, I don't think there's really any team in college football that's going to limit what he's doing. It's going to be a shootout no matter who's playing Washington. Hopefully, it just goes the Huskies' way.
Yeah, I agree. What else did we miss on? There's
I mean, a little bit of the Under Armour stuff that's going on right now. We got some dudes
oh yeah,
looking real good out there. I think David Stoney looks great. I've seen some of his clips. Eugene Brooks is another guy that looks great. Um, yeah, we've got some guys out there doing some things.
I know we
Akin
sent.
Kunmi is out there doing stuff by himself.
Yep, I think Akin Kunmi has won the fans over.
Yeah.
If nothing else, he has won more and more OU fans over with the story about how he was out there till 9,
Mm-hmm.
doing solo reps, and then was in the weight room with Stone by 3 or 4 a.m. or something like that, which is crazy. Not only huge dedication, especially for someone that young, but this guy is clearly putting in the work to be
Yeah.
the best he can be. Um, I mean, gotta love it. You gotta love it, regardless of the outcome of his overall career. But I do think he shows that he can be promising.
I think he's probably doing that no matter what. But I think it probably helps for him to see, when you look at the outlook of the Sooners, and we talked about how good this defense can or should be next year, because I think there's a lot of guys coming. The skill group on offense is there. That receiving core should be really, really good. That running back room should also be really, really good. The one weakness on this team, or the one question mark on this team, is offensive line. And I think a guy like Daniel Akinkunmi is smart enough to see that and be like, man, maybe if I just get in here and, who knows? We have seen freshmen play on the offensive line at Oklahoma. We saw it last year with Caden Green, and he played well. I think Akinkunmi sees a potential opportunity here to hit the ground running from day one.
Yeah, this entire offensive line group, and obviously, like these two guys, we've seen a lot of the last few days because they are at the Under Armour All-American game. So we're seeing clips of their one-on-one reps and what they've been doing since they've been there. But this entire offensive line class is very undervalued by some fans, in my opinion, because they're not these high profile recruits, which is fair. I mean, obviously, you always you want to look good on these recruiting rankings, but if you look at it, every single one of these guys is over 300 pounds. You are building depth. Maybe not the depth you want to see when you're just looking at recruiting rankings, but they're building big, they're getting big bodies in that room. And Coach B can coach these guys up. Now, Akin Kumi might be a guy that's going to be on the two deep next year, where he gets, if someone goes down, which happens often at the offensive line position, he gets some reps. PJ Brooks, again, a guy, especially at that guard spot. If anyone has an opportunity to be a day one starter, it's him and Eddie Pierre-Louis,
Let's say Pierre Louis
because of
has, yeah.
their size, their athleticism. You, should be more excited than they were 2 weeks ago about this offensive line group. And if they're not, then go watch some tape on these kids because
Watch
they're
those guys, yeah, and then you brought a couple over in the transfer portal. I think you'll still end up adding a couple more, but I would be curious to see next season. Uh, I'd actually venture to say that one of these freshmen along the 2024 class will see some significant snaps. I don't know if it's going to be game one or kind of like a Caden Green approach where he comes in later in the season, but I feel like one of these freshmen is going to play.
Yeah, I think that is fair. That is definitely fair. And you look at the other side of the ball, David Stone is doing David Stone things,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that people saw it, but the other five-star defensive lineman that Oklahoma was going after for the entire recruiting cycle ended up not getting, has not had many highlights shown of him. Not saying that he hasn't made good plays, but boy, has he had a rough social media weekend, to say the least.
Yeah, I think yeah. I like that we're not mentioning names here. We're not preying on a kid's downfall, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, tough weekend for him when you look at these clips, but Stone, he looked good. I think I only saw one rep where you're like, man, he got kind of, someone beat him,
He
but
went
even
one and
still,
one
like,
with somebody pretty much is what happened. Yeah,
yeah,
the clip, he kind of got beat or whatever, but yeah,
yeah,
he beat him earlier, so they kind of just took turns.
yeah, and even still, like in that rep, he got behind. Like he would have been in a position where he's helping the guys around him if they're doing their job get to the quarterback. So he didn't win the rep in the one-on-one, but if he does that in a real game, he's making that much easier for the
Yeah,
other three guys on the defensive line.
100%.
And then Devon Mitchell winning that, throwing the
That dude is freaky. Like he just seeing him, just like the clips of him and what he looks like, and him run and block or do whatever. Like that is a big ass kid, man.
yeah,
he's he's huge.
yeah, he is. I still think he's going to be the starting tight end next year, and we can kind of talk about transfer tight ends here in a second. But man, do I think that kid's going to be special, regardless of how old he is going into next season. He's the same size as the guy we just got in Bauer Sharp, and I think if he puts in the work this season just to get a little bit more strength, so he can compete a little more in blocking situations, there's no reason to not have him on the
Yeah,
field.
I
Even if
mean,
he's not the starter, put him out there.
he's a junior in high school right now.
Well, he's going to the senior year.
Well, I mean, it's still junior year, right? They have the second semester of junior year, so that's the only thing that's going against him, because yeah, these kids are built different.
All right, Stink Ass Cat, thank you for the $10. His comment, hope we got a shot against Georgia next year. Dislike their fans as much as FSU fans.
I think the only way we'd play Georgia is if it's an SEC title game. Actually, that is the only way we'd play them. So
Hmm.
I too hope we see Georgia next season.
Yeah, I'm with you there. All right, let's talk a little bit about the tight end position because I forgot that there was some news in that
Oh
room.
yeah. Blake Smith.
So Blake Smith entered the portal. A guy that did contribute a little bit last year, mainly in blocking situations. He did have a couple receptions. I don't know stats off the top of my head,
Not great.
but he's leaving, moving on to his next place. I don't know if he took advantage of graduating or if that new transfer rule where basically you have unlimited transfers thanks to a West Virginia court that said it's not fair to limit these kids to one transfer, which different topic for a different day. But you have a guy in Jake Roberts, is that his name, Brandon?
Mm-hmm.
That just entered the portal.
Yeah.
Very familiar with Luttrell from Norman. Went to
UNT.
Norman.
Yeah.
Went to Norman North, and Oklahoma is recruiting his younger brother,
Yeah. Hard.
highly rated 4-star Nate Roberts. So, if there is a time where Oklahoma needs to put a full court press in the transfer portal recruiting, not just for the outlook of next year, but the outlook of many years to come. It's for Jake Roberts.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be shocked at this point if he doesn't end up being at OU, just with his familiarity with Seth Luttrell at North Texas, with tight end being an area of need, and similar with Jocelyn Malaska, with Jake Roberts, we are recruiting his younger brother very hard, and being able to have Jake on the team or having played for us is not going to hurt that process at all. I like again. I think I'd be shocked if he doesn't end up playing in Norman next year. And I think he can come in and kind of play right away there too, or at least have the opportunity to play right away, because with Blake Smith gone now, I don't think you have anybody returning as far as
Just
guys who have played snaps at that spot for us.
longest tenure tight end is now Caden Helms.
Yeah, who hasn't played a snap really? I mean, outside of like spring ball, maybe every now and again, but like, yeah, it's a wide open room.
Cade McIntyre, he did get a few opportunities very early on in the year when we were blowing teams out. I think he had one catch or two catches in the Arkansas State game. So we'll see. I think his biggest thing was he just needed to beef up. So he might be a guy that people need to look out for. This tight end room, it's the most confusing thing to me because it's not like they haven't recruited good players. It seems like the injury bug has just hit him hard because Caden Helms has yet to have a healthy season.
He's been banged up since he got here.
Mm-hmm. Jason Llewellyn is obviously left in the portal. Stogner just wasn't the Stogner that was here the first time at Oklahoma.
And he's out of eligibility anyway.
Yeah, and gone. Blake Smith is gone. Cade Helms is really the guy or not Cade Helms, Cade McIntyre is the guy that might have an opportunity that's currently in this room. But even still, like, can't remember his size, but I remember thinking he's kind of an undersized dude for his position. But one big thing was like it seemed like his genetics, looking at his dad, gave him the opportunity to just pack on the pounds this year, and he was redshirted, so he spent most, if not all, his time with Schmitty. He's got to give. I think at the end of the day, it's going to sound like I'm complaining, but you have to give these younger guys an opportunity to play too. You can't keep going to the portal because you don't like what you haven't seen. Maybe wait till springtime to go into the portal for a tight end, even though that might be too long. It's not like you're getting, like a Jaheim Bell out of the tight end who was last year's number one tight end in the portal, or Brock Bowers, who's the number one tight end going to the draft. You're getting guys that are serviceable, not game changers out of the portal for that position.
I would like it to be Caden Helms' team. I'm hoping Caden Helms finally, clears up, gets his injury bug or gets his injury situation under control, and he becomes, or at least one of the tight ends, I think, for next season. But because he's a guy that I think has all the talent in the world, especially as a pass catcher, in that area of the game. But we just haven't seen it yet. I'm hoping Caden Helms finally takes the leap. I'd like him to be the tight end one.
Yeah, would be interesting. I wonder. I'd have to look at what his measurables are, because he was also a guy that in high school mainly played. He was basically just a receiving tight end. I don't think he was ever asked to block in high school. And if he did, it wasn't very much. And again, he's big enough where it probably just outpowered guys that were smaller in situations, or just was able to chip block for the most part.
The OU official roster has him listed at 6'5", 235.
All right, so definitely a guy that's tall, but you wouldn't hate if he's packed on another 10 pounds to help in the running situations. Because when you do look at him in clips of podcasts, he looks pretty thin.
Yeah, I mean, I would say he looks pretty big, but I guess for college athletes, but yeah. Maybe we are going to get your guy, Devon Mitchell, man. I mean, maybe it is. That would be crazy if Devon Mitchell's is tight end one next year, but we'll see.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, that's what I'm saying though. The tight end room is so confusing because you look at what's in the room right now. You got Cade and Caden, guys that were brought in with promise, just a little bit lighter and needed to put on some weight. But you keep going to the portal, and you haven't really seen a younger tight end get much go at it. Either if it was Llewellyn or Helms or Cade, they haven't gotten much opportunity on the field. I
Oh
get it
shit! Didn't we? There's a tight end that we did get out of the portal. We're just forgetting about it right now.
this year. Bauer Sharp,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm
Yes.
saying. Like
Okay.
now
Yeah.
you have Bauer Sharp, who is measures the same as Devon Mitchell, which is why that's my big argument. As if why you start Devon because he's more promising younger. Just use Bauer as for situations. Then you could get a Jake Roberts. And let's just say that things do go well in the 2025 class and you get Nate Roberts. Then what happens to Cade and Cade? Like, it's
I,
just like they never
yeah.
really committed.
I think if all that happens, it would be like they never committed because I don't think they'd ever really play.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah,
it's an,
it's
it's an interesting ass room.
very interesting room. And spring ball will probably give us a better idea of where that is headed because Devon Mitchell will be an early enrollee. Um, Bauer will have already been there for the same
Yeah.
amount of time as Mitchell, and if you get Jake Roberts, he will also have enrolled and been there at the same amount of time. So if you see those three guys, I think exclusively, it's probably Ken Helms still can't shake the injury bug, or he's going to be a guy that will be hitting the portal.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be a fun one to watch. That room.
Yeah. Um, anything else? Anything else that we've missed? Any questions that people want to throw out there in the chat? Does
Does
Helms have
Helms
the
have the
dog in him?
dog? I hope
It's a
so.
question for Caden Helms, and I think he would say
Yeah.
yes.
Ivan Carrion, I guess, could be a tight end. He's got the height, but he's 6'5" or 6'6", but he's
Yeah,
probably 215 right now or something.
here we can Google that one up. Um, I don't know if you would. That's a lot of weight to pack on.
That's a lot.
Because
Hold
he's
on,
kind of a
yes.
thin guy. Let's see here. He is, according to 24/7, he's 6'6", 196. So he's about
Yeah,
50 pounds too light.
that's a lot. I think putting 50 pounds on somebody is just gonna it's gonna change their game way too much. As long as
His
Jay
pound.
is doing it. See, I feel like I think that's what we were kind of expecting to see a little bit, or I don't know. This to me feels like an overreaction to one game. His first career start against a good Arizona team. Yeah, he made some not great decisions, some bad reads, some bad interceptions. But again, I think he brought us back from his mistakes. We had the lead at halftime. We had an 11-point lead in the third quarter. Made some really good throws too, and he's gonna have all the weapons in the world. I'm not too much worried about JA. That's not to say he's not gonna have some um, freshman type mistakes next season too, because I'm sure he will. He's gonna be playing against some really good defenses in some hostile environments, but for the most part, I think JA is gonna be just fine.
Yeah, I'm with you. And again, this wasn't Littrell's offense fully. Like, it's an offense he understands and had an idea of how to play or how to call the game. But one thing you did see about Littrell is he wasn't afraid to be aggressive. Like, I don't really look back for the most part of my memory of that game and think, man, we're playing scared here. Maybe the first couple of drives, but that was also like looked like they were trying to ease him into the pressure of being the starting quarterback for Oklahoma. Then once they gave him the reins, it was like, all right, man, it's full go. You are him. Let's figure it out on the spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean
Um,
the dude's still almost threw for 400 yards. And that's what he did. He had
yeah,
361.
yeah. And the mess keeps putting up this 45 passes is reckless. Like, this game doesn't matter. If you think he's going to be throwing 45 passes every game next year, that is not even part of Seth Littrell's offense. And you can go back to UNT or his time at North Carolina and see how he runs his offense. And it's pretty balanced for the most part. Probably does get a little pass happy, but if it's like a 55-45 split, or maybe closer to 60-40, it's not, you'd be running maybe 30 pass plays to 20, or I guess
Yeah.
the average is like 60, so 35 to 25 ish, which is about what we ran this year. If you look
Gavin
at
only
the,
had 15 carries in the Alamo Bowl. That's not something that I think you see consistently. So yeah, I think that the balance is going to be a lot better. But yeah, again, I think you're trying to see what you got in JA. Sling it.
okay,
It's a bowl game.
yep, I agree, 100%. And 19 passes versus Iowa, I don't really think you needed more than 19 passes versus Iowa because
That was
they can't
also
score the
just a
ball.
different time of the game. Like college football was totally different when Josh Heupel was playing quarterback
No, he's
versus
talking
what it
about
is
this
now.
year, like their bowl game. Hypo
Oh
coached
yeah.
Imale, and it's Iowa.
It is all yeah, it's
Like,
Iowa. It's one of the worst
just
teams on offense ever.
once you
You don't
score
need to do
seven,
anything. You're good.
just score seven.
Take a
Yeah,
knee.
like that's it. Exactly. Like it's not that big of a. You don't need to run it. Like that's just a different game too. Think if Oklahoma played Iowa, Jackson Arnold might have had 5 passes because as soon as you score your first touchdown, you don't got to play again. Game's over.
That's what DL said. Nico could
Yeah,
have taken a knee the entire second half. Yeah.
exactly.
Iowa
Iowa had
sucks.
173 total
That's a
offensive
different
yards.
that's a different team. Yeah. You can
Yeah,
shit, we might be able to beat. I mean, honestly, if we're playing quarterback against Iowa and we just hand the ball off every time, if the guys can get in field goal range running at one time, we're fine. We're gonna win that game.
yeah. I think versus Iowa these last couple of years, you can basically just be the 49ers versus the Packers in the NFC Championship a couple years back because you don't need your quarterback to throw that much. Just a little bit to make him think it's confusing. Um, Someone else mentioned, had a question up here, or at least had a comment up here that I thought was worth sharing. Copenhagen, fantastic name. I'm
Hell,
sure
hell
Brandon agrees
yeah.
with that. I think that's a good point. I think you looked at Washington that if you were just looking at college football and thinking they could be good, I don't think anyone assumed they would have a Heisman finalist in that room. Maybe the best receiver in college football this year in Odunze.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, he's definitely in the conversation. It's him or Harrison.
mhm. So that's, I mean, it's true. We're on your side here. Our friend Brum isn't here, which we haven't done a typical Brum plug. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. We're kind of late into this to be saying that for the first time, but do that. But yeah, it should be more objective, and hopefully the 12-team playoff has that happen.
I want to say I did pick them to win the Pac-12 too, though.
Did you? You might have. I don't remember that far back, but I'm sure you did because we weren't going to pick USC. And
Yeah,
I
I mean,
don't. Yeah, a good pick. If you did, I'm going to believe you. Good pick. Oh yes, David Hicks is not entering the portal at this point. Not that surprising. We've been
sucks,
talking about.
but it is what
Yeah, I
it
mean,
is. Yeah,
we've been talking about it on the show for weeks now. Like it was always an if, and people kind of just assumed as if it was a win. I know Brandon was kind of speaking it into existence when we were talking
ruined
about
my
it on the show.
darkness.
Yep, but I mean, again, we talked about it when Oklahoma was recruiting him. We talked about it this go around. If he were to have ever entered the portal, it's because the situation was so bad at A&M that being close to family wasn't even a point of emphasis for him anymore. And if you think back to his recruitment, that was a big piece. Regardless of what people think of him just taking a bag, not that he didn't get paid a lot of money, that was always known to be something that was important to him, being close to his family.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you hit her there. It is what it is. We'll move on just fine without him. They also
Mm-hmm.
lost out on Derek McKinley, if you want to call it losing out, because that's the guy that I think most of us had him pegged to LSU for a long time. Would have been a long shot, but you just got to keep moving. Because like you said at the top of the show, that 2024 D-line haul, not just the big names with, David Stone and Nigel Smith, but Danny Okoye, I think, is going to be an absolute monster. Wyatt Gilmore, that whole defensive line class is going to be really, really good. We're okay.
Yeah. And Dom and McKinley. That was interesting. I think that recruitment is just it was too quiet. Kind of like Eddie Pierre Louis, where you never really knew where he was leaning until he made his decision. And the only reason that Dom even entertained leaving A&M is because E-Rob took the DC job at Syracuse. If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be having this conversation about potentially flipping him.
Yep.
Yep. And also, I don't know. We were talking about it in the car because that drive to San Antonio was felt like it took forever.
That
We
was the
actually
one
made
downfall of the trip. Trip
yeah,
was 10 out of 10. The drive was just
but yeah.
not great.
Um, Again, and going back to the Hicks thing, like he's in Katy, Texas, um, which is relatively close to College Station. I can't imagine having to make that 7 or 8 hour drive every, let's say, once a month to go visit my family. That would be terrible. I would never want to do it, honestly. And that would
Yeah,
suck for a kid
it's
apparently wants him close to home. Or like he wants to be close to home,
it's
mom wants him close to home,
yeah.
whatever the situation is.
You'd
I'm
have
not
to
making that fucking
you'd
drive.
have to fly it once a month. I think is the only because that drive was it sucked.
Yeah. I think at that point OU would have to throw in some use of a private jet to make sure that guy gets to
Mayors, yeah.
would go to
Katy, Texas,
Oklahoma.
a big time airport's wide drive. Yeah, that's what we would have to do something like that. Get his
Yep,
ass on a plane.
exactly. And that again, I think he would run the risk of being recognized, and I think that's the last thing some of these kids want. They have enough shit on their phones of people um, talking shit and wanting to get access to them. But yeah, good life. A little bit more chill. Um, Oklahoma, I think is going to be fine at the end of the day. But yeah, we'll be focusing more on college football. 2024 has arrived. It's going to be a big one
Happy New Year. Yeah, first
for
New
us.
Year for first live stream of 2024.
Yep.
We
Yep.
appreciate
Happy New
y'all
Year.
being here. Yeah.
What's the goal for this year, Bunny? 10,000 subscribers? 20? 15?
We've been saying 10 for a while. Let's go like 85.
8,500? I think that's fair. I think that's fair. Let's try
It's
to get to
2,000
7,000
more. Yeah.
by like May. I think that's
Yeah.
possible. All
I
right,
do too.
people. Help us out. Help us get to these goals that we have for this year. We're trying to not aim too high, but if you do get us to 10,000, we would appreciate it. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think about Oklahoma. In the comment section, if you are in the live chat right now, just click off of it, go to the comment section, and give us your thoughts on the OU football team going into 2024. Appreciate you all for watching and supporting this podcast. I think we're going on 3 years. This April will be 3 years.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I don't think either of us thought that it would be to where it is now. And again, way more to come this year.
Can't wait.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.